Mara Vance had learned long ago that if she kept her head down, no one would bother her. In the wide metal repair bay of Dock 17, that was a useful skill. The place was loud with engine hums, plasma welders, and alien voices speaking in sharp clicks or slow musical tones. Humans were rare here, and when they appeared, they were usually guards or cleaners. A human mechanic was almost unheard of. Mara was small compared to most of the beings around her. She wore a faded work suit with patched elbows and grease marks that never fully washed out. Her dark hair was tied back tightly, and her hands were always stained with oil or dust. She worked quietly, carefully, fixing what others had given up on. The alien crews barely looked at her. To them, humans were not dangerous, not important, not advanced. They were from a young species, too emotional, too fragile, too slow to understand real technology. That belief made Mara invisible, and invisibility gave her freedom. She was working on an old cargo shuttle when the alarm sounded. Not the loud station-wide alarms, but the low warning tone that meant something had entered the dock in bad condition. The sound echoed through the bay, and workers stepped back as a sleek alien ship drifted in, sparks trailing from its underside. Its surface shimmered with patterns that shifted like liquid metal, now dull and broken in places. Dock drones moved in automatically, guiding the ship to an open platform. Several alien engineers gathered nearby, speaking urgently. Their body language showed confusion and fear. Mara wiped her hands on a cloth and watched from a distance. She could tell the ship was in serious trouble. Its energy field was unstable. If it collapsed fully, the ship would shut down, or worse. A tall alien with silver skin and long arms turned to the crowd and spoke loudly in trade common. "This vessel belongs to the Surix Collective. Its systems are failing beyond standard repair. We require a certified specialist." None of the engineers stepped forward. They had already tried. Mara could tell by the way they avoided looking at the ship. Whatever was wrong with it didn't fit their manuals. The aliens gazed past over Mara without stopping. Then the ship's side hatch opened, and a figure stumbled out. The being wore a sealed environment suit, smooth and pale blue with faint lights along the seams. She moved unsteadily, one hand pressed to her side. A medic drone rushed forward, but the alien waved it away and leaned against the hull of her ship. Mara noticed the way the suit's lights flickered, matching the ship's unstable energy rhythm. That was not normal. The alien spoke again, softer this time. "I am Surix. This ship cannot be allowed to fail. If it does, many will suffer." One of the engineers replied nervously, "We do not understand the fault. The system logic contradicts itself." Mara frowned. Contradicting systems were familiar to her. Humans built messy machines. They often worked even when they should not. She hesitated. Stepping forward meant being seen. It meant attention, questions, maybe rejection. But if the ship failed, it could damage the dock, hurt people, or worse. She took a breath and walked closer. "I can look," Mara said quietly. The engineers turned in surprise. The tall silver alien stared at her. You are human." "Yes," Mara replied, "and I fix broken things." There was a pause filled with doubt. Finally, Surix looked at Mara directly. Through the transparent face shield, her eyes were bright but tired. "Let her try," Surix said. "We have no better option." The engineers stepped aside reluctantly. One muttered something under his breath about risks. Mara climbed onto the platform and placed her hand against the ship's hull. She closed her eyes and listened, not with her ears, but with experience. The vibration felt wrong. The ship wasn't broken in one place. It was arguing with itself. She connected her portable scanner and frowned at the data. The readings made no sense if taken normally. Energy loops crossed in ways that should cancel each other out. "This design assumes perfect conditions," Mara said slowly. "No room for change." Surix tilted her head. "That is correct. Our systems are precise." Mara smiled faintly. "That's the problem." She opened a panel and began rerouting power manually, ignoring the warning signals flashing on her scanner. An engineer gasped. "You cannot do that," he said. "The system forbids it." "I know," Mara replied. "I'm not asking." She rewired a connection, then another, creating a new path where energy could flow freely instead of fighting itself. The ship shuddered, then steadied. The lights along the hull stopped flickering. A stunned silence fell over the platform. Surix straightened slowly. "The instability it is reducing," Mara nodded. "It'll hold not perfect, but stable." The engineers stared at the readings in disbelief. That configuration is illogical, one said. Mara shrugged. It works. Surex studied Mara with new interest. You did not follow protocol. No, Mara said simply. I followed the problem. Before anyone could respond, a sharp alert sounded from the station's main system. Red lights flashed across the dock. Unauthorized scan detected. Myra felt a chill. Someone's looking for you, she said quietly to Surex. Surex's posture stiffened. Yes, and if they find me here, this station will not be safe. The silver alien engineer panicked. You must leave immediately. There is no time, Surex said. She looked at Mara again, something urgent in her eyes. Human. You fixed what my people could not. That means something. Mara hesitated. What do you mean? Surex reached up and slowly unsealed the top of her environment suit. The locks released with a soft hiss. The engineers shouted in alarm, stepping back. But beneath the suit was not weakness. Embedded along Surex's neck and chest were glowing lines, woven into her skin like living circuits. They pulsed gently, matching the ship's heartbeat. Mara stared, breath caught. I am not merely a pilot, Surex said. I am bound to this ship, to a system older than our war, older than our fear. The station shook as another scan passed through the dock. Surex met Myra's gaze. My people believe humans must never touch this technology. They believe you are too unpredictable. Myra swallowed. And you, Surex's voice was steady. I believe unpredictability may be exactly what we need. The alarms grew louder, and armed station guards began moving toward the dock. Mara looked at the ship, at the glowing lines on Surex's skin, and then at her own grease-stained hands. She had spent her life fixing what others ignored. She took a step forward. Then tell me what's really broken, she said. And somewhere deep inside the ship, a new system awakened, one that had been waiting for a human touch. The alarms did not stop. They grew louder, deeper, as if the station itself was afraid. Red light washed over the metal walls, turning every surface into a warning. Dock 17, once loud with work and voices, now felt tense and sharp, like a breath held too long. Myra stood very still. She could feel the vibration through the floor, through her boots, into her bones. She had lived on stations like this most of her life, and she knew the sound of fear when she heard it. Surex lowered her hand from the open seal of her suit. The glowing lines in her skin pulsed a little brighter, then steadied. She did not try to hide them again. They are close, Surex said calmly. The scan pattern belongs to the Dominion. Mara frowned. That sounds bad. It is, Surex replied. They do not negotiate. They collect. Armed station guards reached the edge of the dock. Their weapons were raised, but they hesitated when they saw Surex and the ship. Orders were coming in too fast, and none of them wanted to be the one who made the wrong choice. The silver-skinned engineer spoke quickly. This station is neutral. You cannot bring conflict here. The conflict is already here, Surex said, and it will not care about your rules. Mara looked back at the ship. The panels she had opened were still exposed. The rerouted lines hummed softly, steady and alive. She felt something strange then, a sense of attention, as if the ship was aware of her. That system inside you, Mara said slowly, speaking to Surex. It talks to the ship, doesn't it? Yes, Surex answered. But only in the way it was designed to, Mara nodded. That's what I was afraid of. Another tremor shook the dock. Somewhere far above, something heavy locked into place. They're preparing to seal sections, one guard said nervously. If they lock this dock. They will board, Surex finished. And when they do, they will take me, and then they will take this ship. Mara's jaw tightened. She had seen bullies like that before, bigger ones, stronger ones, the kind that believed strength meant control. She wiped her hands on her suit and stepped closer to the open panel. If they want the ship, Mara said, they'll have to deal with it working differently. Surex looked at her sharply. What do you mean? Mara reached inside the panel and connected a manual link from her scanner directly into the ship's core interface. Alarms immediately flared on her screen. The silver engineer shouted, Stop! That interface is not compatible with human systems. I know, Mara said. I'm not trying to control it, I'm trying to listen. The ship's hum changed pitch. The lights along its hull shifted color, deepening into a calm, steady glow. Surex gasped softly. It's responding. Mara's screen filled with flowing symbols, changing faster than she could fully read. But she didn't need to understand every piece. She looked for patterns, for rhythm, for behavior. They built this thing to obey rules, Mara said. Humans don't work that way. Neither do our machines. We expect things to break, so we plan for it. The Dominion ship decloaked outside the station. Its shadow passed over the dock windows like a storm cloud. "Boarding in 60 seconds," a guard announced. Surex closed her eyes briefly. "If the Dominion connects to the ship directly, they can override me. That is how it was designed." Mara swallowed. "Then we don't let them connect the way they expect." She began changing parameters, not by replacing them, but by adding options, conditional paths. Feedback loops that allowed choice instead of command. The ship shuddered once hard. Surex cried out and grabbed the edge of the platform, then slowly straightened. The glowing lines in her skin shifted, no longer matching the old pattern. "It's different," she whispered. "It's asking me questions." Mara smiled despite the danger. "Good, that means it's thinking with you, not through you." The docking clamps outside began to engage, heavy metal locked against metal. "Too late," someone said. "No," Mara replied, "right on time." She slammed her hand down on her scanner and executed a manual release. The clamps disengaged violently. Warning lights exploded across the dock. The ship lurched free, hovering just above the platform. Guards shouted. Engineers ran. Surex looked at Mara in shock. "You just violated half the station's safety laws," Mara shrugged. "I'll apologize later." The Dominion boarding beam fired, a harsh line of energy latching toward the ship. Instead of locking on, it bent. The beam curved, twisted, then snapped harmlessly into empty space. Silence followed, then panic. "They missed," a guard whispered. "No," Surex said slowly, awe in her voice. "The ship refused." The Dominion ship fired again. This time, the human-altered systems reacted instantly. Energy flowed where it was needed, not where it was ordered. Shields reshaped themselves mid-impact, dispersing force instead of resisting it. Mara felt it through the interface, like a living thing adjusting its stance. "They can't predict it," she said. "It's not following their logic anymore." Surex stepped closer to Mara, her eyes bright. "You changed its nature." "No," Mara corrected. "I gave it permission to change itself." The Dominion ship hesitated. That alone was unheard of. Then it fired weapons. The station shields flared as stray shots struck nearby structures. Panic spread through the dock. "We can't fight here," someone yelled. "We're not fighting," Mara said. "We're leaving." She looked at Surex. "Can you fly?" Surex nodded slowly. "With this new connection, yes." "But it will be different." Mara pulled her hand from the panel. "Different is fine." Surex sealed her suit again, though the glow still shone faintly beneath. She stepped into the ship, moving with confidence now. The engines flared to life, not with a roar, but with a deep, steady pulse. The ship rose, rotated, and slipped through the dock opening just as emergency barriers slammed shut behind it. Outside, space opened wide and dark. The Dominion ship turned to pursue. Mara strapped herself into a spare seat, heart pounding. She had never been in combat, she had never wanted to be, but she trusted machines that could adapt. The Dominion fired again. The ship did not dodge, it changed. Energy folded, systems shifted, and the attack passed through a space that no longer existed. Surex laughed softly, almost in disbelief. "They cannot touch us." Mara watched the readings. "They will learn," she said, "but not fast enough." The ship accelerated, not in a straight line, but in a series of creative movements that broke every standard flight model. The Dominion ship fell behind. Finally, it stopped firing. "They're retreating," Surex said quietly. Mara leaned back, breath shaking. "Good." They traveled in silence for a long moment, stars sliding past. Then Surex spoke. "My people feared humans because you do not fit." Mara smiled tiredly. "Yeah, we get that a lot." "The Dominion feared you because you could not be controlled," Surex continued. "Now they will fear you because you can change what they built to control others." Mara looked at her hands again, still stained with grease. "I didn't mean to start anything." Surex met her gaze. "You didn't start it, you revealed it." A signal began broadcasting from the ship, spreading through open space. Not a threat, not a warning, a demonstration. Across nearby systems, observers saw what had happened. They saw a human mechanic do what advanced civilizations could not. They saw a ship refuse orders and choose survival. They saw adaptability. When the ship finally slowed, far from danger, Mara felt the tension leave her body all at once. "What happens now?" she asked. Surex smiled. "Now the galaxy rethinks what it means to underestimate humanity." Mara chuckled softly. "I just wanted to fix a broken ship." Surex looked out at the stars. "Sometimes fixing one thing changes everything." The ship continued forward, carrying a human who proved that strength was not about power, but about possibility. and somewhere far behind them the universe took note.